Welcome back to episode 4 of State of the Game. I wish I had more definitive things to talk about, but the past 2 months have been pretty dry as far as updates go. But no worry, the show must go on. There's still loads to talk about, some good, some bad. Update 10.9 is right around the corner, but if fall jams and other creative shows continue to be this brutal, will anyone care? Quick little side note about this series, you probably haven't noticed because I don't really make a big deal about it, but every episode so far has had a theme. Episode 1 was Welcome to the State of the Game, of course. Episode 2 was Teaser Talk. Episode 3 was What's New and What's Next. So what will episode 4 be? The good, the bad, and what bugs me. I'll start with the good stuff, which mostly pertains to Fall Guys' future. Then I'll move on to the objectively bad things that our game has experienced. And then I'll end off with my most personal gripe for the game, what bugs me. So let's get started. In good news, update 10.9 is right around the corner, and it has the potential to be huge, rather than just an intermediate step towards season 11. In the last episode, we went through the roadmap and came to the conclusion that we still need these 3 things: discovery improvements, the object physics tool, and load time improvements. I'm going to quickly go through what all 3 of those things would potentially look like, and then I'll move on to some other things we can get from 10.9. Alright, let's actually start with the object physics tool, because I've been very speculative when it comes to this item on the roadmap.
We can get that object physics tool to help recreate Hexaring.
The ability to move, accelerate, decelerate, and rotate all sorts of obstacles and objects like the ones in Space Race and Cosmic Highway. The object physics tool, highly anticipated object physics tool. Object physics.
Jesus Christ.
And so I just want to put a little disclaimer out here. Anytime Fall Guys puts like anything on the roadmap that's vague like that, I'm going to do some speculation. So just don't always take my word as face value. A lot of the times I know just as much as you guys. With that being said, let me lower my expectations a little bit and show you guys what it most likely will look like based on leaks from Beambot. Beambot posted this on March 3rd, about a week after the 10.8 survival update came out, showing that we'll have more physics settings for certain objects. So in the settings, we'll be able to tweak how heavy these objects are and whether or not they can be grabbed. Now, this is the reason I speculate, because this is still insanely unclear. Everything in creative is technically an object, so it's hard to know exactly what this pertains to. But after putting my thinking cap on, there's really only one thing that this description makes sense for. Well, I should say 3. Push boxes, push fans, and push ramps. It'll be cool to see how a heavier or lighter box could affect gameplay, such as making them harder to avoid or making them easier to move. I've seen lots of creators making Hoverboard Heroes remakes and creative survival with the boxes as well, and maybe turning the weight on heavy will help those boxes stay together for a longer time. Having grabbability turned off, yeah, grabbability, it's a word, look it up. Having grabbability turned off might mean you can also use the boxes as like a wall or other structure for your levels without having to worry about mean beans coming to destroy it. Once again, my job in these videos is to speculate, so I could still be wrong. Maybe it's what I was mentioning in my previous videos, talking about accelerating obstacles and moving platforms. Or maybe it's something completely different to anything that I mentioned, but that's the fun of speculation. What do you think the object physics tool will look like? Leave a comment down below. Moving on to the discovery page, on March 8th, we got a content update that added 3 new rows of survival levels to discovery. It's great that they did this, but sadly you need friends to play them, and I don't have any. That brings me to the core issue of why discovery isn't nearly as fun as it possibly could be, the lack of matchmaking. Hopefully we'll be able to experience the discovery page with other beings in real time in a 10.9 update. I have no idea how they're going to implement this, to be honest. Am I going to have to wait for a number of players to be looking for a game? Is it going to be some sort of playlist? I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. Let's move on. Moving on to load time improvements, it's great that they're working on this, especially with mobile right around the corner. You cannot have a game that takes ages to load for a demographic of people who will probably use it to play during school lunch breaks, work breaks, or short car rides. It needs to be quick and portable. However, I think what's more important is the loading screens not crashing so often. Dead matchmaking screens, parties completely just exploding before you even get a chance to play. This just happens way too often. I seriously hope they'll have fixes for these soon, as this is much more important to making loading feel smooth, even if it's not as fast as it could be at first. Alright, next up, let's talk about the things that weren't on the roadmap, but we have strong implication to believe will be part of 10.9 when it drops. First up, the emote and phrase wheel. We have strong reason to believe that 10.9 will include an emote wheel with up to 8 options, as well as 8 unique phrases that players who play random squads or duos could use to make communication easier. With more and more emotes landing in the shop and fame fast in the passing months, this is a great change so we can use more of what we bought in one game. Next up, checkpoint zones. This is something else that was leaked by Beambot. Reading the description from this leak, we can see that beans respawn here if they touch the zone, and you can make it any size that you like. Very similar to the respawn zones that we just got in 10.8. I feel like this would be one of those small changes that makes a huge difference. Like I said, we already seen the way that respawn zones help the flow of creative levels, and now the creators don't have to spend extra budget overlapping checkpoints to make them fit with their theme. They'll be able to use those extra savings on more important things for their levels. We've also got leaks of a new game mode that might be coming soon as well. This is also leaked from Beambot, and from what I understand, and obviously we don't know everything, but it looks like a game mode where you squad up with other beans, play an endless amount of rounds in succession. You get rewards for every round that you play, and you'd be able to collect them at the end of the session. The coolest feature mentioned in the original leaked tweet was that you can actually skip rounds if you do not want to play them. This obviously isn't as big as ranked mode, but if they follow through on creating this game mode, I think it could be fun for casual and competitive players all the same. It'll cut out the need to repetitively hit the show selector over and over, cutting out load times. It'll make grinding fame and other rewards a little bit more enjoyable playing with your friends. Shout out to Beambot one more time for pretty much all of these leaks. If you're not following Beambot, what are you doing? Finally, I quickly want to go over the teasers that we got this month, with one literally being as I record this voiceover. The first one was back on April 2nd in a video that was showcasing Fame Pass 9's best skin. Here you can see stickers on the ground and in the background that we did not get in 10.7. And Muffins made a quick mock-up of what the patterns look like. So it's this circle looking thing right here, and then it's these little lines in the background. Second teaser happened today as I record this voiceover on April 25th, and it shows what seems to be a bean carrying another bean on its back, which is insane. It's going to give people a whole new meaning to carrying their teammates. And I wonder if it's a power-up or if it's going to be a new game mode. I guess we'll have to wait and see. Alright, it pains me to do it, but we got to move on to some of the bad things that have been happening for our game. Starting off with Solo Shuffle and Survival Shuffle. These levels are horrible. Most of them. Not all of them, but man, I tell you, it's like an 85 to 15% ratio of shit to substance out here. It's tough because I see so many great levels on Discord, Twitter, YouTube, Reddit, pretty much everywhere except the game, only to hop on once a week when the rounds refresh to be utterly disappointed by. What is this? It's 2024. Why are these rounds still getting featured? I mean, obviously it's a bot that selects these levels, but I thought with likes and tags and other features, the bot would have an easier time finding good ones. And I'll be honest, I don't have a solution for this other than Mediatonic handpicking levels each week. And if they can't do that for Fall Jam, they're definitely not doing it for Shuffle playlists. So I guess we'll just have to see what happens with these in the future. Next up, I want to talk about something that went down on Twitter. Muffins, one of our most trusted leakers, made a hefty 46 tweet long thread about the issues with Fall Guys Creative, the not so great implementation into the show selector, the ridiculous Fall Jam blunders, and the overall effect it's having on its creators, players, and creatives' reputation. I really implore you to go and read this thread yourself. There's a good chance that every frustration that you've had with the creative mode in the past 4 to 5 months is addressed in this thread. Obviously, I'm not going to read it all in the video word for word. You do not want to hear me read out loud. But I'd like to go through a few points that Muffins brought up that I think summarize the situation, as well as some things that I'd like to add myself. So, number one is the creative implementation and the overall experience. Because when you break it down, the only real way to experience creative rounds with others at this point is through the shows that Mediatonic curates for us. So when a new, casual, or returning player play one of these creative mode playlists, especially Fall Jam, they'll most likely assume that the levels they're playing are the best creative mode can do at that point. They'll soon realize that the levels are horrible and get discouraged by the fact that this is what Mediatonic wants to prioritize instead of the seasons that they remember earlier. Or worse, they'll hop over into Discovery and see a couple dozen great levels that they've never seen in those playlists, and most likely be frustrated by the fact that they can't play those levels with other players like normal. Creative will never shake its stigma of being inferior to Unity rounds if Mediatonic doesn't put together a show that puts the creative's best foot forward. Alright, the second point is treating their creators like crap. Now, do I think they've set out to treat their creators as badly? Of course not. But these past few months have been brutal, so I'm going to hit a quick recap. Fall Jam 3 had boatloads of levels that did not adhere to its theme despite specific guidelines set by MT themselves. Crispy Squid's level Skydive was ripped off, and that rip was featured in Discovery and Fall Jam 3 rather than Crispy's level. Speaking of Crispy's levels that are seemingly perfect for Fall Jam selection get completely disregarded despite praise from the community. Levels that get selected in the Shuffle playlists that have fans in it became unplayable due to their issues in 10.8, leading to creators having their levels scalded by the player base over something that's not their fault. Adding on to that, Mediatonic is usually very slow to update level versions when something like this happens, leading to both creators and players' frustration. All of this adds up to certain creators no longer wanting to create levels anymore, and sometimes the most experienced and skilled creators no longer want to participate in fall jams. These are my two biggest takeaways from all of that. Why would I or any inexperienced player try to make levels in creative mode when insane rounds like these don't get featured? From that one bad decision of not featuring these levels, you kill the motivation for two types of creators. And if you really are focusing on creative mode being the future of the game, then these are your content creators. You need to treat them as best as you can. Stay in contact with them, praise and protect them, and help them help you take this game to higher heights. It might not be long before they all leave and no one wants to make content for the game anymore. Which leads me to number 3. Die-hard fans are starting to quit. The real sign of a dying game. If the sweats, tryhards, and swamp asses of Fall Guys don't care about the game anymore, what makes you think a casual audience will? I understand wanting to appeal to a wider player base, but if you can't maintain the happiness of the community you do have, you'll risk losing the majority of your average daily players, and most importantly, your revenue. What did you think it was, casual players buying all those fame passes and cosmetics? No. Get real. Alright, let me chill out a little bit. The good news is that this thread went so viral that Joe Walsh, the lead game designer for Fall Guys, actually responded to the Reddit post that was made about Muffin's comments. He says there are internal discussions about the thread, and they're working on addressing the large number of issues that were mentioned. Also, Nate Lane, a 3D visual effects artist for Fall Guys, and probably fan favorite Mediatonic staff member, took to Twitter to encourage anyone to give feedback for the game, whether it's good or bad. It's good to see that the message was received by the staff team, and so hopefully the future of creative will have less disappointments like this. Alright, I was going to have a whole nother section dedicated to the Fall Jam selection process and how bad it's been, but I'm actually going to save this for another video. So all I'll say is, I hope that this gets better in the future. We don't even have news of a Fall Jam 5 yet, and Fall Jam 4 only had a shuffle playlist, so hopefully this is not the end of Fall Jams as we know them, but they need some serious work. Alright, let's move on to the final main section of the video, what bugs me. First up, we don't have any competitive full-length creative shows or LTMs. One of creative's biggest flaws is that you can't compete in these rounds in the same way that you normally would in the core shows. It's been 2 months since the creative mode survival update, and we pretty much have everything we need to start getting full-length 40-player creative mode exclusive battles. 2 different game modes, rounds that will work well as finals, especially survivals, and a community that's been asking for this for months. This wouldn't have to replace the shuffle playlists, as they could be a good way to sift through levels that are actually worthy of being featured in this new show, and the reward could be the same as solo show, 1 crown for the winner. Or, if you really want to have people try out these creative levels, you can make it 90 shards. Chances are the levels will be much harder anyway. I propose you call it Creators Challenge, and it could be a 40-player show with a monthly curation of the greatest 25 creator-made rounds, handpicked by the Fall Guys team. Moving on to the next thing that bugs me, we still have no way to organize cosmetics in the locker. Don't get me wrong. The new locker looks absolutely beautiful. If you don't remember, the locker UI got a fresh coat of paint back in 10.7. I briefly went over it in episode 1, but I also mentioned that we still cannot sort or search for certain cosmetics. Cosmetics are literally 100% of the revenue for the game, so you'd think selecting, organizing, and navigating through the UI would be of utmost priority. I literally do not buy skin bundles anymore because I know I'm going to have to scroll to find them for like 5 minutes just to equip them. And yes, before you comment, I know they're alphabetical, but do you know all the names of the skins, celebrations, emotes, nicknames, face paints, and patterns?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess I'll just go f myself. How about that? All right. The next thing that bugs me is that we need more good creative rounds in the core shows. We have 5 creative rounds in the core show round pool at the moment. Roots en la Selva, Rotation Station, Satellite Sprint, Canyon Sunday, and Winter Disco. And all of them play fairly well. Some better than others. I won't lie and say they're all perfect, but they're light years better than what we used to have. Let's be honest. With creative mode getting better and better features, and obviously the new game mode, I think it's time to add 5 more creative levels into the round pool. I know, not everyone loves creative mode, but I'm not trying to play stomping ground on repeat every day. I think 10 creative rounds that shuffle from time to time within the core shows is more than acceptable. Plenty of rounds have reached the same quality of at least the LS1 and LS2 levels, and it's the best way to expose people to creative rounds who wouldn't otherwise see them. There's even a few survival rounds that I wouldn't mind seeing in the core shows to spice them up. I know this might not be a popular opinion, so just let me know your comments down below on this. Hey you! Yeah, I'm talking to you. Yeah, do you know how many LTMs Fall Guys has? More than 60. What? Yeah, I wouldn't have known this either if it wasn't for Muffins. Shout out to her for letting me cheat off her paper a little bit. But the point is, unless you're an OG player, you would not know that there are that many LTMs in the game. It feels like we get the same 7 to 10 LTMs in rotation every couple of months or so. And it doesn't help that some of the ones in rotation aren't even that great. I'm looking at you, Jump Around. Yeah, I said it.
But yeah, this bugs me because it seems like an easy way to keep the game feeling fresh, especially for players who aren't a fan of creative mode levels at this point. Now, I understand that lots of these LTMs get lost because of vaulted rounds, especially when it's the entire round pool. But still, we've had certain LTMs run with rounds that were vaulted in the round pool. For example, Roll-On, featured in Extreme Solos and Extreme Squads, has been vaulted for over 400 days, and that LTM runs every other month or so. Now, they did bring back Button Bashers Royale last month, so that is a start, but I hope that's not the only LTM that we get back this year. What ancient LTM would you like to see back in the show selector? Alright, finally, it's time for the rapid fire finale. I've been doing these since episode 2, and I like ending the videos like this, so let's get right into it. First up, the vault status. There have been 0 levels unvaulted or vaulted since last episode. The last vault day was March 12th, 2024, and the last unvault day was November 7th, 2023. Maybe we'll see some in 10.9. Fingers crossed it's no more vaults though. Next up, Fall Guys Owl. The status page for Fall Guys broke its 41-day silence to talk to us about an issue with challenges not awarding fame. This bug has since been fixed, and they gave us all quadruple fame to compensate. You have until April 30th to complete the fame pass, and good luck. Next up, Fall Guys in UEFN has been delayed until this summer, rather than the late May to early June timeline that was originally projected. I don't think this is too big of a deal. I'd rather they just take their time with it and get it right. And finally, Fortnite has had its year-long roadmap leaked and confirmed, and there are tons of interesting things on there if you're into that game. But when zooming in a little bit further, we can see a Fall Guys image with a pink bean who seems to be holding a phone. Maybe this is hinting at Fall Guys mobile releasing, and it seems to be right in line with late May, which is really interesting, so we'll see. Anyway, that is going to do it for episode 4 of State of the Game. Thanks for watching to this point. If you did, I know that was a lot of info. Fingers crossed 10.9 drops on April 30th with no issues, along with Fame Pass 10. But that is all I got for you. I'll see you guys in May. Peace out.